Well, turns out I almost called it because, yeah, this was a part 2 episode where after the older tribe gets rid of their designated leader, a new leader kind of emerges, and then somebody who's outspoken gets booted. But it wasn't exactly the same as Nicaragua, because in Nicaragua, the outspoken person and the new leader were the same person. Here, it was kind of different, and even then, the new leader thingy is kind of loose, given how the alliance is kind of shifted in this episode, even though it isn't an insane shift, because Jessica got ostracized and then Ken folded to the majority alliance. I use quotes because it's getting fragile and fragile with each episode, so, right. I don't think this vid's going to be too long, though. So, the tribal dynamics, well, the Millennials, there really wasn't that much that we saw this episode, minus Adam finding that idol, and then maybe a couple of tiny comments made from Zeke about the challenge, and maybe one other thing, yeah, so... That's kind of getting to me, because, partially because there's 20 people, I don't feel like I'm at the point where I can identify all these people. Now, to be fair, in episode 4 of Worlds Apart, I didn't remember Haley's name, and I was still being a little confused as to who the girls were on the blue collar tribe, but there were 18 people then, so I had a little less to focus on. But here, it's still tricky for me, because, Rob and Steven, they keep mentioning that there's a second person named Jessica on this season who I think could be Figgy, but yeah, it's kind of getting to me, which I think is a little bit odd, because I do like this cast. I feel like there's some gameplay to it, but I'm just not seeing it. Now, to be fair, okay, when I did those videos for the Survivor Quran and stuff, it was tough for me to talk about it at first, and then I had more content later on, so... And as usually the case, there is more to talk about as the show goes along, but... I don't know, I just would like to get a little bit more from this cast, because I think that there's something there, and we're just not getting it, yeah. And then as for the Gen X tribe, well... Really, as everyone seems to be stating, it was just mess after mess after mess, really. But that's kind of how it was like in Nicaragua, albeit they were a lot less explosive, and really Nicaragua was a lot like Big Brother 13, if you get the metaphor. Yeah, if you don't, well, look it up. Because you'll find that Big Brother 13 is pretty hated by most people in Big Brother, right? Even though the odd thing about that is Nicaragua is recently beginning the Marquesas treatment. Another metaphor, right? And I was lucky what I was seeing to a degree, but it didn't really produce much of a mind spark in me. It wasn't bad, but just not something that I could really talk about. Just it's typical Survivor, and as I stated at the beginning of this video, I did kind of call it. That something like this would probably happen. Although the bits where fast forwarding a little bit, Ken ends up folding to the majority, that didn't totally make sense to me. I just don't totally get what was going on in that guy's mind, because previously he's been willing to make a little bit of his own path, but at the same point he does want to work with everybody and try and get the tribe in a better situation. He's alluded to that, so... It really strikes me as odd, just like, when did this guy fold? I wish that we had a better, clearer idea about that, or maybe it's just me. Actually, this time it definitely is me who's just not getting it, because Rob and Steven, they seem to have a better idea of what was going on in Ken's mind than I did, even though they didn't discuss him too much, so yeah, it's probably me. Right. Then as for those challenges, well, the reward challenge, I actually wasn't too picky about who won. I just wanted to see, a fun challenge, and that was really interesting how Michaela on the Millennials just owned the challenge whenever she was in there. Not bad. Did pretty well there, and I found it really amazing how Gen X got that last point, although I think they got a little lucky with those swells, because even though they probably edited that out, the swells did seem to kind of push them along, although I think that was just coincidence, because, like, we only really saw one wave go after Jeff, so, yeah, it's just how the tide ends up working. You can't really predict it. So I was kind of glad that Gen X got it, but really it was just at the last second that I placed my bets on them. And then as for that immunity, well, even though I did like the fact that Gen X was in the lead, it seemed pretty obvious that it was going to come down to the puzzle, and then it just showed that the Millennials were able to place a couple of letters correctly, and then they were able to figure it out. But, like, they showed a shot of them having, like, two-thirds of a word, well before Jeff goes, oh yeah, they're onto something. So that kind of ruined it for me, because I could tell well before it actually happened that they were going to win this due to a subtle clue. But I did feel like there would be some potential for the Gen X tribe to have some nice blow-ups, so I wasn't overly bothered by it. Fast forward to the tribal. Another interesting tribal were tons of people very honest with their feelings. It is interesting to see how honesty is beginning to matter a little bit more, even though the question is, how honest are they being, and is it really worth listening to now? It's real interesting, because everybody seems to definitely agree that we're past the stage where votes are locked, and yet, ironically, people are a little bit more honest than they were back then. Or maybe I just didn't read it correctly, because when I watched Old School Survivor, that was literally the only reality show that I watched, and I was a lot less mature then, because I watched most of those seasons halfway through high school. I haven't been in high school in years. Because when I made those Survivor 1 World videos, those were the last couple of months in high school, right? Right. And then we get the bit where Dave plays the idol, and then the way he started that speech, I was like, oh, dude, you have no reason to play the idol for yourself. Come on, dude, if you play that idol for yourself, you are the biggest star. Wait, why are you doing that? Oh! Phew, this guy has a brain! That's pretty much how I felt during that whole fiasco, yeah. So then he's able to save Jessica, and then Laura the dictator ends up leaving, and I felt like there was a good potential for that, given the parallels that I had been illustrated between this and then Nicaragua, although odds are the parallels are going to stop here, because I just am not seeing this cast behaving a lot like Nicaragua, because like both of these tribes are indicating that they're willing to work with each other, albeit for entirely different reasons, and it's mainly due to the fact that there's less blow-ups here than in Nicaragua, albeit it's not entirely fair to compare this season to Nicaragua, because Nicaragua was a mess in terms of the blow-ups that we had there. As I said, Big Brother, right. Well, the might have been shorter, but I hope you guys got a good reaction. And then as for the next episode, are you seriously still surprised that there's tribe switches, and don't you realize that a bunch of them happen after 4 people leave? The only times after HVV that it hasn't happened after 4 people have left have been Caramone and Bloodless Water, and that was because people left the game under abnormal circumstances. Super fans, come on!